For this assignment, I'll be talking about Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is about sports for children. The chapter speaks a lot about the baby boom. During the baby boom, it was a time when there was a lot of young people, right after the war, they wanted to get married and have families. So that's what they did. They had a lot of kids, they had a lot of babies. So since people was having a lot of babies, over time, they started developing little youth organizations, and after a while, it started to skyrocket. It just skyrocketed onto the scene. So after a while, fathers wanted to get more involved with the youth organizations. They became coaches, administrators, and different things of that nature. While the wives did laundry, make sure the kids were fed, and make sure they made it to work. Practice and games on time. A couple of reasons why this thing skyrocketed the way it did was because, one, a lot of these kids saw these pro athletes and they wanted to be like them, so they wanted to play the sport that the guys they were watching. They wanted to do the sports that the guys they were watching, and so that contributed a lot to why. And then another reason is because at the time the media had a big frenzy about there was a lot of kidnappings and abductions and different things like that. So parents wanted to be considered good parents. So what they did was they put them in these after-school care programs and all these different youth organizations to because they were adult supervised and they knew where the kids were. So that was just one less time that was just one less time that they didn't need to know where their kids were, because they knew where they were. They knew where they dropped them off in the after-school care program. But what happened over time was it became more of a business, and adults got too involved. And then the next thing you know, adults start taking the fun out of it and the creativity out of it. And then they started making kids focus on just one sport. The author of the chapter gives an example of when he was growing up all the way up to high school. He played as many sports as he wanted on every team and did everything with his friends and whatever he wanted to. Then when he got to college is about the time when he was told to focus just on one sport, because he signed a contract, got a scholarship for basketball, and they wanted him not to get injured and to focus on that one sport. So what happened? So then he goes on to talk about his daughter, who was 17, or granddaughter, I'm sorry, who was 17, and at a young age they wanted her to focus just on one sport. They didn't want her to play any other sports, just one sport. But I believe when you do that, kids become burnt out and they lose their passion for the sport. So what happens? So if you let them play multiple sports, they get to spread that passion out a little bit. Whereas you make them focus on one, they're gonna get burned out and they're not gonna want to do it anymore. So as adults, I feel like we, put there was a lot of as an adult, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on our kids to live the dream that we had, when that may not be the same dream that they have. So what we need to do is take in consideration more of, what do they want, because they are, even though they are our child, they are different from us. So if they want to play a lot of sports, let them play a lot of sports. If they get enjoyment out of that, let them enjoy it, because you only get one childhood, and you don't want to, and that's one thing you don't want to take away from a child, is a childhood. So I believe that if we let the children do what they want to an extent, then I think they will be more likely to excel and have fun with it. Whereas when we just make them do one thing, you can get burned out on it quick. So I think the moral of this is just to make sure that we know our role, and we play, and we make sure whose interests we're looking at here in this situation. And it's about the kids, and it's not about us. And we make sure that we put the kids before us, and we make sure we put the kid in the best position to succeed and enjoy their life, because you only get one.